Hi everyone, welcome to an exciting episode of the Talent Superheroes Podcast. Today I'm hosting Ramesh Kannan, currently serving as the People Success Leader at FSS Technologies. In his 20 plus years of experience, Ramesh has dabbled in corporate HR leadership roles, from his time at Polaris to heading HR for India at Temenos, Market Tools, Virtusa, to going on to play a global HR head role at Product. He's also fearlessly dabbled as a full spectrum HR consultant in the hire to retire space. Ramesh is a talent superhero and overall a very humble human being. Welcome to the podcast, Ramesh. It's a pleasure hosting you today.
Hi, Sudarsan. Many thanks for having me in your podcast. And to be honest, this is my first podcast. So I guess you may get to laugh anything. I believe.
Oh, lovely. Don't worry about it. We'll have a fun conversation and we'll see where it takes us.
Sure.
Right? Uh,
Yeah.
Ramesh, one of the things that's fascinating for me in your experience is how you played, roles in BFSI, in IT services, been a consultant, and now you're working in a company that's largely into fintech products as well as operations, right? So, how do you see HR when you look at a particular industry being different between, say, a fintech organization and an IT services organization? What do you see as some fundamental changes?
Oh, if I may ask you this, you see it from a business perspective or from a HR perspective, because both are very different. Right? So,
Right.
if I see it from a HR perspective, the common thread is connecting irrespective of, logic of industry is people.
Right.
They work in industry A or industry B. Doesn't matter much. But business imperative, the priorities could be different. What you will need to work with people.
Right.
So if you are asking me from a business perspective, yes, the significance and importance is a little different from a product and services company based on the vertical, the sensitivity, you know what I mean? So, okay, from a HR perspective, end of the day, people are people. They are not logical emotions.
Right.
And, I look at what is being very common between these industries is people and their logic and emotions. How do you get them with a brain interface that could work for the company as well as people? That's what
Right. Right. No, interesting. You're right. People are logic and emotions, right? And one of the hardest things that I see, right, is uh, I'm sure you go into organizations. There are some teams that are misaligned, right? And a lot of them are because of people, emotions, and logic, right? And because people are operating in their own silos, or people are, not necessarily aligned to what the organization needs. When you go in and partner with the CEO, what are some ways in which you look to enable, like, say, a culture change, right? So that there is better alignment.
I'm going to take a little deeper there, right? So we start with let's all the elephant in the room, which is HR. Right? So what is HR? I believe that the HR could be a department, but as a function, it doesn't really relate to the HR department. To start with.
Right.
So it is about how you go about enrolling as many people as possible into the agenda, what the company wants. And what will allow your sexual employees aspire and what motivates them. How do you strike that balance? We're working with them, and it is not only the HR department coming into the grant program and then, flashing points and then writing policies. So, what is it involving from the employee perspective? So, how do we get the best of the ideas from the employees themselves? How do we involve them into our efforts? How do we say that we need support? It is about a broader agenda. It is about making them feel that they are really, really important and treat them like customers. And typical solution it is like KYC, right? So I would say KYE, know your employees, and
Nice.
and enroll them into whatever you do. And I'm sure I learned a lot by doing that.
Right.
We have the programs that we have developed in many companies. The greatest of the input that come from employees and what is it within the design.
Right. So, in a way, um, is it more about involvement in designing the outcome for the outcome to actually be achieved? Versus, saying, hey, here's the outcome we need to get to. It clearly feels like it's a lot more of a participative process, is what you're recommending for conversations with employees. But at what level? Because a lot of times there'll be conflicting agendas, right? Like, let me take the case of a fintech company, right? In a fintech company, the space of innovation is phenomenal, right? But at the end of the day, you're dealing with money. So the risk is really high. Now, the people required or the cultures required for innovation and risk, right? Or the processes required are very different. So one of the things I'm really, curious about is how do you balance, like say in a fintech company, balance between innovation and risk? Because the people who want innovation, if you involve them in the participative process, they will want to innovate. They want to go fast, right? They're risk takers. And at the same time, you're dealing with money, so you can't have anything failing. So would love to hear your thoughts on, kind of balancing this scenario.
Sure, very interesting question, Sudarsan. So, I just want to bring the paradigm and the definitions here, right? So, it is management and then employees and then customers and the rest, right? Why do we need to keep them separately? What makes us to think that people may not understand what the risk that we are, facing and what is the innovation that we want to go with? As long as you involve them in the way forward, how we are doing it, what should be achieved. And if it is co-conceived, it is everybody's agenda. Right? And nobody is going to get their idea fail, right? Having understood the why, having understood the purpose. And I think it is about balancing. I feel that people are responsible enough to understand this majority. And I think it is about striking a balance and it will go great.
Right. So what you're saying is, effectively laying out the risk involved. But I've always seen, right? So if you see the people who are like an audit mindset to kind of find what is wrong, right? Versus the people who have a out of box thinkers, right? They're two very different personalities, right? So how do you kind of find the balance? I mean, would bringing both of them at the table be the solution, or is it a process solution? Because at the end of the day, you can't take that risk just on equal involvement.
Sure. We need both, actually, in order to have a balance. And the frame of reference, to me, it is about providing the frame of reference and then getting the alignment towards that. Reasoning to other people as to why this risk, is very important to the company, to the customer. And with their acceptance, build a agenda, having controls in place, but not compromising on the innovation that comes from. I would say that it is about a concept of blessing, right? Instead of looking at what is not there, let us look at what is abundantly available. And without being critical and cynical about it, how do we create a larger picture with involvement from everybody? We need controls, we need innovation, and we need a balance there. I'm sure if you put it in the agenda and reason it out people, and then go consider it. It is everybody's idea. It is a painting that we are thinking together. I don't know whether I answered the question, but that's what I believe.
No, absolutely. In fact, I want you to double click a little bit on blessing. Did I get that correct? The terminology?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because it almost feels like no judgment, right? We're not judging people for their thoughts, but accepting them for who they are and bringing them to the table to say, why don't you talk about it? That's my reading of it, but I'd love to hear what your, if you can double click.
Sure, Sudarsan. Blessing is a concept where everybody contributes and build ideas. So being critical of each other. What has been looked at, in general is, it is regardless of who says what has been said. And how do we get the idea better? It is not about saying, yes, but it is about, hey, great, can I add more to it? There is a lot of difference. I don't have a disagreement to what you say, but I want you to get better at it. Can we have an idea, get better? Right? So, no cynical mindset. And it is about supplementing any ideas that come from people around. And how do we get the idea better? And not under influence.
Got it. Lovely. It also means you need to hire people of a certain mindset or coach people into a certain mindset before they come into this conversation. Do you see that as a hiring paradigm? Do you see that as a coaching paradigm? Like when you set up your teams, where do you focus more on?
I think, see, there are different personalities in each of us, right? So you have your DNA, I have a DNA.
Correct.
And I think it is about looking at what we bring to the table as a value. And by leveraging on your DNA, how do I real value out of it? Then looking at what is not harming.
Got it.
I think it is okay. It is okay to have people who are having different mindsets, right? Let us accept them for what they are and put an agenda with a clear intent. I think generally it works for us.
It absolutely works, Ramesh. I tell you, I'm a big believer. Because if you see, most cults, and I take an extreme example of a cult, the reason people flock, and stay with an ideology or a cult is because they feel accepted for who they are in that setting. Blindly, right? And then, of course, there is the negative side of it, which is, manipulation by leadership, but of a cult. But that's the reality. Once people feel accepted for who they are, it's brilliant that you can really create a positive culture and a positive environment of people coming together. Right? Which I think, is also very liberating to be in a workplace for a few hours a day, right? You're spending 1/3 to half your day. And if you can be accepted for who you are, I think that's extremely liberating as well, because then you can just be yourself without worrying about judgment.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. I just want to add to one more example of the risk part of it. Let's say that we have a policy on this, right? Often the Asian department can take a fancy policy on the risk part with the help of the information security, with the help of QA, blah, blah, and pop it up. I'm the development and then have all points and have any program. Instead, why don't we involve employees in co-creating?
Right.
So everybody know what the purpose is, the why is addressed, right? The guiding principles are addressed. Once that is done, it is pretty simple. What needs to be done to address the guiding principle, and everybody understands why they are doing it. I think if you do not give the why, and if you do not get the awareness around the why, the what will not happen. Okay, and you will be solving the problem forever.
Right. So tell me, Ramesh, is this something that a lot of people, when we talk about participative policy, right? Honestly, the government of India, when it's coming up with DPDP, right? They released a participative policy paper and they required inputs from so many industry bodies. So when a government of a country can do this with 1 billion people, right? And it's not like everybody participated. Why don't many more companies do this? Because, it really is not a function of scale.
Yeah.
Is it a function of effort? What is the reason why, or is it a function of trust? Why do companies usually go top down in some of these things versus, what about policy making?
Getting on the policy, let's take the example of referendums in countries that have been done, right? In Switzerland, it was done about a few years ago in terms of the non-employment benefit. The Brexit, for example.
Exactly.
Right? So the countries can do that. Why not the companies? And why not the HR department?
Right. You absolutely.
Mindset.
Yeah, is it effort too? It's actually, so it's a mindset. If you go about a process, I think you're right. The effort is more to involve versus getting it done.
Okay, see, it's going to minimize your effort. You're going to get more efficient. If you're going to have more helping hands and sharing out whatever you're trying to do, you'll get more efficient.
Right. But this is so counterintuitive, right? And most of these things are counterintuitive, Ramesh. Like, for example, there are two schools of thought, if I have to lay it out. One, we define policy top down, we push it down, right?
then you put a lot of effort in fighting for adoption, change management, right?
Yeah.
The other is you put the effort up front. You seek participation, build alignment, and then the effort is lower, right? But 90% of the companies do part one. Hence, more articles on change management, adoption versus participator policy. Right?
Yeah. So the answer is in your the very name of your podcast event. Sudarsan. We all want to be seen like heroes.
Right.
And why don't we have a heroine culture where everybody becomes a hero?
Right. Nice.
And it is about hesitating to seek for support. And I believe in this. I need to make these statements, these 7 statements in the last 100 days. If I'm not been making these statements, maybe I'm not progressing. Very, very simple. Hey, annual mistake. I probably say I made a mistake. Then I say that I apologize.
Right.
Profusely. Then I learn something from it. Right? And thank you. Say it to somebody. And I appreciate what he did. Finding the goodness. And then I need support. Boss, help me out. How many of us come out of the shell and seek support externally?
Right.
Then I'm here to support you. Unconditional support to people. When you find that they need support.
Right.
If we do not do this and make the statements in life, I believe that we're not progressing, Sudarsan.
Right.
I don't know whether I confused you.
No, not really. In fact, as you were talking, I was reflecting, right? How many of these statements have I made in the last 100 days? Right? And it's actually brilliant. Being okay with making mistakes, right? Taking ownership and saying, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, right? Going ahead and then, appreciating somebody for their efforts, yet backing them unconditionally, right? And I was thinking about, when is the last time I told my teams, I'm unconditionally there for you, right? If you have anything, we will support you. I'm going to change that. After this podcast, I'm going to draft a note, send it inside, so that, I can provide that level of psychological safety, right? Because for us also, right? I think our philosophy is our customers win big and we win when our customers win. But the reality is, who are the people who make our customers win big? It's our teams. It's our people. So effectively, people success enables customer success, not the other way around. Right?
Absolutely.
So, there are a couple of quick topics I want to dive into.
Sure.
I was fascinated by your blog on LinkedIn, where you said a candidate is always right. And we talked about, whether the customer is always right is something we look at. The candidate is always right is something that is new. Because in a country where there is an abundance of people, but a skill, talent, role mismatch, oftentimes, right? We have a lot of people, but not enough skilled people, and more or less always a mismatch. Where does the attitude of candidate always right come in? And why would you say so?
It depends, right? So it is about who's choosing who. It's not the demands of the situation at all. Okay. That's going to play a role, right? When the market gets heated up, as a candidate, I have more opportunities and I have multiple options.
Right.
And if I'm really, really good at something, I think there is a great demand for talent over there. Why would I decide to work for company A and not for a particular company B? And what is the value proposition that this company offers to me in order to stay, strive, and contribute? If I do not see a value proposition, I'm going to leave for company B or C.
Right.
So, what is there as a company, as an employer, that we can do to create an ecosystem? To me, that is more important. Then we about the attrition data and retention, all of that, and then we report business may acquisition rate, all of that. So I leave the outcome. Outcome could be attrition, outcome could be an engagement index, the trust index, what we. If you
Right.
focus on the process, I'm a big fan of MS Dhoni. So I believe that the outcome is not something that you can control, but the process very much you can control. Let us
Right.
do the right thing and I think the outcomes are going to happen.
Right. So it's actually awesome. So what you're saying is if you build the right EVP,
Yeah.
right, have the right employee value proposition.
Yeah.
And you're able to communicate that to the candidate, then you will also end up attracting the best talent. Because the best talent, the absolute best talent always has choices.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the philosophy. Because most people operate with the fact that if not you, I'll find somebody. Right? But I think your philosophy is I want you, you're the best. I am up for choice, please operate. It's again a mindset difference. Again, like that's where I see, the philosophy being almost diametrically opposite and counterintuitive to what I see everywhere else. Hence, I was very excited. I'm still very excited about this podcast because there's so many counterintuitive things that we are kind of sharing here.
Yeah, so many a times I don't get accepted as a HR professional, so I'm okay with it.
But that's fine, right? Like these are all labels. These are all labels. And tell me something, Ramesh. I also see almost an aversion to the term leader, right? Like you wrote a post on that as well, where you said, why do I have to be a leader, right? And when we were speaking before in the just before the podcast, we were talking about you really want to introduce me as a leader. So I really want to understand, right? Like everybody wants to strive to get to leadership, but here you are saying, why even label me as a leader? Can you double click on why? Again, that's something that I think is so unique. Would love for the audience to learn.
Sure. So we just more from okay, first of all, I'm not reflecting out of a civil be as when I said that I really mean it. It is our reflection. Let me give you the scenario, okay, so that we appreciate why I said that. I got an email from one of the employees from the travel desk saying that this service will not be available because it is, it is done automatically. It is automated. So we do not do any favors types. For a minute, I was unhappy. Okay, when I read that. In fact, I was very busy that day and you have many things. Then I started asking, why I was unhappy about it. Which part of that makes me unhappy? I did a kind of a self-introspection. Then I figured out, somewhere in my mind, it's a deeply invented thought that, in a hierarchical chain, I belong to a top and the employee email. To me, that is absolutely not acceptable. Even at a top level, right? So, thought it translates into words and actions. So I felt that, maybe I'm still not getting there, So why would I call myself a leader when I won't get better as a person on a day-to-day basis?
Right.
So many people don't understand that, but I believe in this, I'm okay. Not to be a leader for whatever I am.
Right. Actually, so Ramesh, if I understand this, if I decipher this, I think sometimes I share a personal story. I was very fortunate to work at Deloitte before I started my entrepreneurship stints. And I remember the last day, I had grown really fast. I was having a great portfolio. Deloitte was incredibly kind to me. And I remember, I was, my identity was, I was a manager at Deloitte,
Right.
handling a large team.
Sure.
Right? And the day I quit and I walked down the slope, I felt pretty naked. I had no identity. I had no title. I was nobody. Right? That's in parts scary, in parts liberating. Because now what I do will define me. Right? It's like Batman, right? Another superhero, right? It's not who you are. It's what you do that defines you.
Sure.
And the reason I think I think people glamorize the title.
Yeah.
They glamorize the leadership. They glamorize and make that their identity.
Yeah.
But what I find fascinating in what you say is the person can continuously evolve. And the leadership is not getting to the apex is not, that's not the end goal, right? That's just a process, right? Beyond that, you can be an even better human being. And
Yeah.
sometimes our titles come in the way, or we get entitled because we feel, we are somebody and we should behave a certain way, right? Or we start to expect.
Call a spade, Sudarsan. It is not the title. So if you really, really see, the title could be a manifestation of your mind state, which is ego.
Right.
So let's accept it. I would be bluntly lying that I say that if I say that I don't have ego. Okay, what I'm watching over, from watching over it consciously. And I think what I enjoy doing is I want to become a better version of myself every day. So I'm making conscious efforts to get there. There is a lot of discovery about the thoughts. If you watch over the thoughts, that's a start point, and I'm struggling. I'm not very fully here, and I don't know whether people could relate to it. So I'm okay. I'm okay to be wrong. I'm okay to be seen wrong. I'm okay to be caught whatever. But this is the journey that I'm in getting a better version of myself. So I think that's a maybe that could be seen as a deflection and a pseudo humility. No, that's not what it is. But this is where I
Actually, not really, Ramesh. Sorry to interrupt, but see, a lot of times when we self-reflect, right? All of us do. I think we reflect on the outcome. We reflect on the process. We reflect on things we do. But to segregate that from self-reflection as a person is not often something that people do, right? Because I think when you say, why am I a leader? You're doing that. Is you're self-reflecting as a person and a human being beyond just the work and the tasks and actions, right? Which I think is different. So, is it something that you consciously do in terms of, say, meditation, any practices that you follow that help you get there, or is it just how you're wired? How you wired yourself?
meditation guy. Okay. Nothing. Okay. So let me begin this. I reflected over my journey, for consciously. There is a concept called consciousness, which is little beyond mind. So there are different school of thoughts. I lost some interest towards that I read and I reflected. Then I realized, in every stage of my career, I thought I knew everything. And I was so arrogantly, adamant about learning, And I had ego differences with my peers, team. I think I've been also great manager. So these are the revelations that come to my mind that, perhaps I never acted differently inside. Right? So how do I take forward with these learnings what I have? How do I process this information in order to get better? The only way is, go naked, boss. Say that this is what I am. I'm not having pressure on me. Right? I'm okay to be seen wrong.
Right.
And nobody defends me.
Right. No, that's beautiful. It's actually, that's, I think, one of your superhero facets is to be just secure in who you are, accept who you are.
Yeah.
And once you accept who you are for exactly what you are, you're at a certain level of peace. When you're at a certain level of peace and self-security, from there comes a statement where you can say, I'm okay being wrong. I'm okay being seen wrong. I'm okay apologizing.
It's very important than being wrong.
Right.
So how does know that we are being wrong?
Correct.
Okay to be seen wrong, it calls for a different mindset where you are absolutely liberalized, right? So I'm okay.
Right.
I'm okay not to be defined.
Right. And that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. I know we're at the end of 30 minutes. I'm really enjoying this conversation, but I have a gun to my head with having to close this. Ramesh,
I know.
Thank you so much.
Nice
For taking time, sharing insights, and I love that we are the first podcast that you've been on, and here's to many more. So
sure thing. My daughter will chase me from now on. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
thank you so much.
Bye.